Hey, welcome to Fuerte and Fearless, the podcast. Join me, your host, Jeanette Guardiola Woods, as I discuss topics centered on nuestra gente and issues that relate to our community and culture, all with the intent to liberate and elevate. Are you ready? Vamos.
Know that there are people out there that are willing to invest in you and willing to really push you further. And don't be afraid to do the things that make you scared. Do it scared and just know that we're all trying to figure this out. Nobody has anything figured out, no matter how perfect they are. Del día de mañana, you never know what happens.
Hey, welcome to Fuerte and Fearless, the podcast. Join me, your host, Jeanette Guardiola Woods, as I discuss topics centered on nuestra gente and issues that relate to our community and culture, all with the intent to liberate and elevate. Are you ready? Vamos. Thank you guys for joining us today. I have a very special treat. I have Sandra Lucia Diaz with us. She is a Colombian illustrator. A lot of you may have heard of her through Fearless Yaya, her business. So she is an illustrator who's collaborated with brands such as Chanel. You may have heard of them. Carolina Herrera, Marciano, Guess, Saks Fifth Avenue, Amazon Handmade, Estee Lauder, and literally just to name a few. She's also created fashion illustrations and have been featured by fashion designers and media companies such as Marchesa, Rodarte, Adobe Aero, Fierce by Me Too, both Latina and Latina approved. And that is just about her. Her business, Fearless Yaya, is a Latina-owned business that empowers and honors Latinas through high-quality art prints, one-of-a-kind greeting cards, and other stationery products. Her designs are created with the goal of providing cultural representation and pride so that mujeres poderosas can see themselves represented in the world. Sandra, thank you for joining us. Oh my God. Long time coming. Sandra and I have done... We've done a live before. So, we kind of have had this discussions in the past, and we're just so excited to bring that to you now. So Sandra, thank you for being here.
Jeanette, I'm so excited to be here. You are my hero. Everything you do with Fuerte and Fearless has given me a fire and a drive to just keep going and keep working at what I do, which is the art of representation, specifically the art of Latina representation, because we've been left out in a lot of areas, in a lot of different aspects. And it's time to build our own table, and it's time to empower other Latinas. So thank you for the work that you do. And just know that I'm a huge fan of everything that you've been working on. And I'm so proud that you launched this podcast.
It's such a love fest. We have so much love for each other's work. And, I so appreciate you, Sandra, saying that. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here, most importantly, because we get to have these conversations about what we're doing, which a lot of times we spend time creating, physical items and things like that. But it's I think people are also very much inspired by your story and why they follow you, and the things that you put out is reflective of that. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. So let's start off talking to me today about your journey. How did you get where you are now? What has been your journey?
Well, I could, have to say that I have to give credit where credit's due. My parents, my mom, my dad, they are Colombian immigrants. And so they worked their butts off here in the States when they moved in the 80s from Colombia to Miami. And so my mom saw that when I was born, I just would pick up a crayon, and I love to draw and I love to paint. So she was really focused on making sure that I was a creative. And even though my dad wanted me to be an architect and my mom wanted me to be a fashion designer, I was able to attend this really amazing high school called Design and Architecture Senior High in Miami, where I got to study fashion design. That's where I fell in love with illustration and drawing. And I remember even going to Colombia and painting my grandfather, or painting the landscapes, or painting on Los Costales, painting faces. And so my grandfather was like, we're gonna go to the El Pueblo right quick and we're gonna get you a notebook. Like, you ain't gonna draw my costales because those are expensive. So yeah, in between my grandfather, Jose Manuel, my mom, Luz Huiles, and my aunt, Luz Mila Huiles, she, like, that trifecta of amazing people believed in me from the beginning, from the first day. So I'm really grateful for having the support and even having, a Latina mother that is a hustler, and she used to make arepas, flip arepas, and people in Colombia would order her arepas because they were so good. And being able to see that my mom was working for herself and earning a living for herself and taking care of us and really focusing on our development, because my brother and I, we're just lucky to have such a strong and really, like, ambitious mom that really cared for us and cared about what we wanted to do in life. So I'm just super lucky. Like I said, I got here because of practice, because of, there's been really tough times. Like, we grew up in the ghetto in Miami, but we got out when I was in high school, and we were able to move to a better neighborhood. But throughout that whole journey, like, I didn't grow up with like a TV or anything. So I would spend hours and hours and hours sketching in sketchbooks, and also, tuning into like documentaries like on PBS and Bob Ross and all of that stuff. Like, that's really what raised me, just being able to step back, illustrate, and know that there's a lot of support there. Also, my grandmother Lucia, who actually I am rebranding my business for, she was the first person to buy a commission piece from me. So that's the main reason why I am switching over from Fearless Yaya to Lucia Diaz, because my grandmother Lucia, I think of what were her dreams. Like, what if she had the opportunity to go to school, to go have an education? Same with my mother and my grandmother Mercedes. Like, if these women in my family, all my female ancestors, if they had the opportunity to go to school, like, what would they have pursued? So this is the reason what I like, the things that I do is to make sure not only that I empower myself, but other Latinas, because there's so many women out there that don't have the opportunity to go out and chase their dreams. And for me, I'm just lucky to have, like, again, a really amazing family. And then also my husband, Jonathan Diaz, is super supportive. He's like, girl, you need to have your own business. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it. But yeah, it took a while for me to believe in myself. And there are other people in my family that didn't believe in my creativity and would say that I was going to starve to death. And you have to just ignore the haters, shut them down, and just be like, no, I don't got time for you. And surround yourself with people that love and care and understand your vision. And sometimes you might lose friends along the way, but guess what? You're going to gain some really amazing ones. Like, I've gained one with you. So.
Oh, so sweet. No, literally same. Like,
yeah.
In order for you to grow, you do have to shed, I think people don't talk about that part too much, right? Because it's uncomfortable, but that's part of the journeys of you going and being more authentically aligned, is you're going to be shedding things, your environment, your all kinds of things, friends, and people you thought were really close to you, and it happens. And it's not necessarily even a malicious thing. It's just part of the cycle of life, of growth, and I'm happy, like, being in this space to even be able to, all the connections that I've made through the business. And I'm right now, I'll be being able to bring that into the fold of what I'm doing with the podcast, so that some of the important conversations that we have, sort of in a clandestine manner, we can bring out into the open and have this larger conversation for people like other Latinas that may want to be illustrators or are struggling in that art world or fashion world. And that kind of, brings me to the subject that I wanted to also bring up with you about being somebody who is at the intersection of fashion and art and before you went into your own business, and that being in that corporate environment and the cultural sort of, what you bring to the table, right? Like, I think a lot of us, like, I know that myself, I'll even preface this by saying, like, I was in a similar situation. I went to FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And I also worked in New York City in corporate environments before I launched my own businesses. And it's difficult because a lot of times you don't see yourself represented. And a lot of times as a Latina, you are treated in a sort of subjugated manner. And these are a lot, they can't identify with you, or culturally it's hard to identify with certain things. And you feel like sort of the exception a lot of times. At least that was my experience. Can you talk a little bit more about your experience before you branched out into your own sort of business?
Yeah, I could definitely, I mean, I resonate with what you just said so much as somebody that, grew up in Miami for 30 years. I was in the beauty, fashion, and big tech for, pretty much 10 years, 12 years. And I never really saw myself represented. I always felt like the other or a token Latina, especially in big tech. In big tech, I would be sometimes the only person in the room that spoke Spanish. And when you have to represent your whole culture, it's a lot of pressure. And then for people to not really understand, for example, that certain people in Latin America, like, for example, Brazil, don't speak Spanish. Like, to have to say that to like a VP, it's disheartening, and you feel like you're challenged and you have to change who you are in order to fit in. And I was just not like that. Like, I am a terremoto and I'm going to come with my crazy, jackets and my colorful, like, just personality. And I'm going to tell you how it is. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat things, and I'm not going to tell you that everything is perfect and everything is fine when there are issues and problems in UX that that people have to fix. And at the end of the day, what I learned is, like, I have to be true to myself, and I have to understand that it's okay if somebody doesn't understand where I come from. And I try to, instead of getting angry or frustrated or fight with them, I start to see them as toddlers, as like 5-year-olds, and understand that, what, unfortunately, they're not culturally raised to see that there are other people in this world that have probably never traveled, or if they have traveled, like, maybe haven't really been to like the ghettos or the slums of, kind of like where my family comes from, at least in Colombia or in the States and in Miami. And so they can't relate, or they don't have empathy for other people. And so for me, I really saw the lack of diversity, not just in film and beauty and big tech, but like in art and stationery. Like, I went to I think it was, I don't know if it was a Hallmark or CVS, and I literally spent hours looking for a graduation card with like a big afro, because I wanted to get one for my prima, who's Afro Latina and like Cubana and has like a lot of flavor and sauce. And I'm like, I just honestly did not see anything that looked like her. And I was like, oh, hell no, like, I need to do something about this. Like, this is not right that Afro Latinas aren't represented in stationery. And so I just went ahead and I asked her sister, hey, can you take a picture of the back of your head of your sister? She's like, all right. And she sent it to me, and I created my graduation card for her. And then a lot of people, her friends, were like, hey, can you make me one too? And I'm like, you know what, we'll go ahead and like launch this. But again, this is all because there was a white space. And I hate saying white space because I hate that term white. I'm going to say blue space. Let's give it some color. There was a blue space where there wasn't any representation of Latinas in stationery. And I hate seeing these Cinco de Mayo and cards or things that do not apply to our culture, that are, it's just tokenism from white people. And at the end of the day, I'm really appreciative of the experiences of what I learned in corporate, in beauty, and in big tech, because I'm taking that and I'm bringing it into my business. Even though it was difficult as hell, I had a breakdown. I was laid off from my corporate job, and I had to go to therapy because I felt like I lost my identity. I felt like I lost who I was, and I disappointed my parents, because obviously my parents are like, oh my God, my daughter works at X company, and mira como está, like, she's killing it. And for them to see you know, I was laid off, and it wasn't, you know, it was during the pandemic when everybody was really getting laid off. I had to step back and realize, you know, sometimes God and the universe like does things to teach you that there is no secure future. The what you envision could change at any second, and you have to be prepared to pivot, and you have to accept that there's some things that are just not for you. And there's some times that we fight for things and people don't even want to even talk to you about it because they think, oh, you're just being difficult. No, it's really just we want proper representation in all aspects. It's the least that my culture deserves, especially working at such a prominent company that says that they're very into their customer and all this, you know, if you're into the customer, you need to make sure that you understand who they are and where they come from. That's why for me, it was really important in every business that I was in. Whenever I would launch a product in a region, I've launched many products in beauty products and digital products in Mexico, and also in the Netherlands and France, Brazil. And I made sure to hire out teams in those regions to make sure that they that they understood what was going on. Because copy and dialect and all of that stuff, that's super important. People need to understand in their language, in their native tongue, what's being presented to them. So that's another thing. When I'm coming in and designing my website, I'm asking my designer, hey, let's even do, if we could do a Spanish button, because that's important to me. And even though I'm Colombian, I want to make sure that it lives on past who I am as a Colombian, but really as this is for the cultura, this is for Latinas. It's not just for me. So I hope that answers the question. I know that's super long.
No, please. There's a lot. You know, I think that people listening probably can identify with parts of that journey because, you know, one thing I wanted to just say is a lot of what we see ourselves, how we see ourselves represented or reflected in the media, or like you said, in big tech. And I also worked in advertising at one point. A lot of times it is through the lens of whiteness. And it is the interpretation of being Latin through whiteness. And that is what we see on the shelves. That's what we see. Really, that's what's there. That's what's out there. And the reason is because there is a lack of representation that we've been talking about for a long time. And instead of let's bring people in at the higher levels in a meaningful way and really integrate that, it's almost how can we do sort of the least, right? To bring this in to say, to check the box, to say that we did the thing. And so if you have spent time in corporate America, you have seen this. And even if you haven't, you've gone to the store and seen this, okay? And this is or watched shows. And, you know, this is why when we see certain things, shows and whatever, we're so passionate about it because this is so crazy, but me watching Pose, right? Which is one of my favorite shows. And hearing them talk about titi, toto, whatever, all the things, I felt so seen. And I was literally made my eyes water, you know, because and I'll even say this, the whole Bad Bunny album that I'm obsessed with now, the new one that just dropped, same thing. So many of us, I don't care if you're Puerto Rican or not, you know, you're connecting, you know what I'm saying? And I'm saying I don't care, meaning the broader Latino community also really very much connects to this album because you're hearing yourself. I'm telling you, and this is going on a tangent. It's not about me, but I'm making this larger point to illustrate why it's important to have people like Sandra to have these conversations, because we know when we see certain parts of ourselves reflected out in the world, it makes us feel more powerful. It makes us feel like we can do more things, and we are that. But it's about embracing it. And the point that I was going to say was I have this sticker that I sell. It says I'm the cool titi. And I would sell it and people would be like, what's titi? Is this titty? I don't know what this is. And I'm like, okay. You know, and now he has a song, Titi me preguntó. And so now I bet you now I'm going to get less questions about what is titi. Do you know what I'm saying? Because this is it's a kind of silly example, but the point is that, you know, that representation, it means something to us. And and it 100%. And I think that, kind of what you're talking about, your journey, like a lot of times we cling on to identities. And it makes me even think about the book, The Alchemist, and how in order to grow and to get into the next step, you have to shed certain things that you've held on to. And it feels like earth shattering. And you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do in the next state? Whatever thing, but that's par for the course. It's part of the journey, right? And it sounds cliche, but it's reality. And that part is what helps shape you, but it's no longer part of you. And you go into the next part of your journey so that you can continue growing and also doing the things that you're doing. Because I always say this, even to my own kids, like, you being the most fullest expression of yourself is how you help the world. That's how 100%. You help everyone around you in your community, whatever. Come here, do what you were meant to do, what you were meant to do.
Let me just add something very quick before you ask the next question. Bad Bunny, I love that he is coming in and doing these partnerships, and he's like, I'm gonna show up as me. You need to mold to me. And that's what Latinos have to do. Like, I feel like before, like, like Selena and like Shakira, you had to do a cross album and you had to sing in English in order to sell. Look, Bad Bunny and J Balvin, especially, I have, a lot of love for Bad Bunny, because he's coming in, he is like not caring if he wants to wear a skirt, if he wants to look like Go-Go Gadget at the Met, like, él no le importa. He doesn't care what anybody has to say. And that album that he dropped had me in tears. I know one of the songs, Andrea, is about a domestic abuse survivor. And to me, I've gone through that. And I felt like so much pain through that song, and him bringing it to light and him understanding that he's not forgetting where he comes from. He's highlighting where he comes from. He's empowering the people of not just Puerto Rico, but Latin America to stand up for these really big issues that we're going through. And for me, I see him as my superhero, and I'm glad that he's doing a partnership with Marvel. And I know it's going to be lit, and I know it's going to be insane, and I know it's going to be Latinx, like up the heezy, because he's not going to allow any brand to come in and mold him. He does what he feels like doing. So I just wanted to like put in those 2 cents there, because I'm super appreciative of Bad Bunny, and you know how much I love him. I had a sticker in my shop of him because he's somebody that I definitely respect.
So I did want to also mention about Andrea. I didn't follow that case too closely, but I did see, so I think Andrea was a trans woman in Puerto Rico, correct?
Yeah.
Who's a victim of femicide.
Yes.
She was killed.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, I wanted to say that. And, he brings issues that, he brings up issues that people have been shying away from talking about openly. And he 100%. Creates an album and adds an entire song, to have the discussion about that. There's a lot of value behind this, and this is why, again, this is why it's important to have spaces like this, where you and I are talking, and also, and people like Bad Bunny out there, putting things like this, because it helps have that larger discussion, it's so important. And I'm so glad that he's doing that. And I'm so glad that he's not adhering to our sort of gender norms and whatever's been dictated. He's a artist in the fullest expression of that. And he's just like, I'm going to wear whatever I'm going to wear. I'm going to sing about what I want to sing about. I'm going to speak whatever language I want to speak. And I'm going to do what I want to do. And the important thing behind that is, if you're coming from countries in Latin America or whatever, in Caribbean, whatever, we're so used to being, the colonial relationship. We're so used to being controlled. We're so used to being told how we can manifest our cultura, how we could, it's cool to talk about Cinco de Mayo, but maybe not cool to say stealing jobs on a t-shirt, like this is the type of things that, it's like we get a little space that's created for us, within the larger mainstream culture. And then it's like, here's a box you can kind of go play in, And so that's why it's important to see artists like him out there really breaking down those barriers in a real way. Like, what, fuck that box. Like, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to do it the way I'm doing it. And you have to take it. And that's it. And
yeah, and everybody listening right now, do it. Take that box and shove it out into the universe and say, hey, I'm gonna be me. I'm gonna show up authentically, and I'm gonna be who I want to be. Just know that you are empowered to do so, not only through this podcast, but through Bad Bunny and through anybody that's going through anything, and especially with your identity not being Latinx enough. I speak Spanish, but sometimes, I'll forget a word, and that's okay. I just want people to know that you are enough and you are worthy, and you are worthy to do whatever it is you want to do. I started like from zero with my business. And it was thanks to my friends, purchasing for me, my husband, also purchasing for me, and other people that, like my little brother, he was one of the first to order from my Etsy. It just takes a couple people to believe in you. And there are grants out there. I just want to like plug in Hello Alice right quick. Hello Alice, iPhone woman. And I'm pretty sure this will be in the show notes, or if anything, if anybody needs any help with grants, I'll send you a bunch of links of where I apply to grants, and know that there are people out there that are willing to invest in you and willing to like really push you further. And don't be afraid to do the things that make you scared. Like, do it scared. And just know that we're all trying to figure this out. Nobody has anything figured out, no matter how perfect they are. Del día de mañana, you never know what happens. So just know that everybody that, at least that I come across, I want to be a cheerleader. I want to be somebody that is like, yes, like I'm in it, I'm with you. And I just know that if more of us are empowered to be ourselves, what a beautiful world would this be, instead of a whitewashed world. This is a colorful world we live in, and let's be colorful. Let's wear like rainbow earrings, let's wear like colorful jackets, like let's be us. Let's have our hair curly. Let's do what we need to do to break these norms. And even if like la tia or your mom or somebody says, I know, pero mija, you shouldn't do that, guess what? They might live in a different time and they might not understand where you're coming from, but just know that I understand where you're coming from. And I give you permission right now to do whatever you want and to chase that dream. And just know that, you have women out there that are doing those scary things. Reach out to them, slide into their DMs, ask them questions. I mean, sometimes you'll have people that answer you, some people won't, but that's fine. You just have to go take your shot. So go take your shot right now after the podcast.
Oh, such inspirational words. And again, this is somebody who is living this reality. Sandra's out here, she's doing the things, like she's won grants. She has a business, she's taken that road, so she's really speaking from experience. So thank you for sharing that, Sandra. I'm going to pivot into, because there's so much to talk about with you and I want to cover everything. I'm like, okay, I wanted to talk about the NFT community.
Yes.
So I really, really would love for you to shed some light on your journey with NFTs and how you see Latinas or Latinos showing up in that space.
Okay, number one, I'm going to tell you right now with NFTs, protect, if you are into it or if you're interested in it, protect your crypto, put it on a ledger. So go to this website called ledger.com, order yourself a ledger. And also never ever click any DMs from Instagram, from Twitter, of accounts that you don't know. Because there are scams out there. But why I'm in NFTs is because of the community. I just started to be like, you know what, let me explore it. My friend Jess from Yo Quiero Dinero podcast, she basically sent me this workshop, and I did the NFT workshop, and I am part of this group with Dr. Hans, and he is pretty much an investor tutor that basically helps women of color to invest. And I'm not telling you to go invest in an NFT right now. Like, I'm telling you, go do your research first. If it's something that you align with, cool. And be careful with like who you invest into. Don't put your life savings into a coin or a NFT. Like for me, I only have 2 NFTs. One from Women's Rise and the other one is from World of Women. Actually, I have a third one from the Royals. And all of these collections are women-led collections, or women artists have participated in these collections. With Women Rise, this collection gives back to Afghani women that are seeking an education. They're also working on developing a school in Web3, which is the next iteration of the internet. So right now, with Instagram, the podcast you're listening to, this is currently Web2. So the Web3 is definitely a new world that I want to tap into, but I am doing my research before I ever invest or try to get into a project. And people are going to be sending you DMs like crazy once you enter this world, and just know that, please be safe. Don't click on any crazy links. And I'm over there building a Latina community and empowering other Latinas that have projects to speak about their project, to get that microphone in Twitter Spaces and speak out on why they're developing a project. For me, I haven't developed a project yet because I'm still building my foundation in Web2. I'm rebranding. I'm about to launch my website. But it really is, it takes a lot of patience. I don't want anybody to get FOMO. Just know that if there's a project that lands and you don't get are a part of it, guess what? There are other projects that will be coming into the future. And right now it's a bear market, meaning there's a lot of NFT projects that are losing their value. And same with the coins, the ETH, the Bitcoin. And that's because of what's also happening in the world, the war with Russia and Ukraine. These are world events that we have to kind of look back and say, yo, people are dying. Yeah, our portfolios could be down, but at least we have food, at least we have shelter, at least we're protected, at least we're home. So for me, with NFTs, I'm just exploring it and really researching it, and I cannot stress enough, just do your own research and don't do things because el fulano del tal te dice, oh, look, you're going to have 10K worth of whatever. Just invest $100. Don't, if it sounds like a scheme, it probably is a scheme. But there are other projects out there that are women-led projects like World of Women and Women Rise, and BFF that are, and Boss Beauties that are very much trying to change the role of women in investing and making sure that they distribute education, that they have panels, that they have Twitter Spaces where we get educated. So if you're entering Web3 and NFTs, I would just say go into Twitter Spaces. Don't invest a lot of money upfront. Make sure that you just do, be okay with losing, but then also be okay with winning some. For example, I invested in World of Women. And I think I only paid I don't know, I don't remember, it was 600, and the NFT itself is now worth 10K. So these are things is because of the community that project has, and the utility of in real life events, when there's conferences. These are things that add value to the NFT. So I haven't launched an NFT collection, and I've been approached to do generative collections, but I haven't found the right partners. And I don't know if I want to do a generative collection. I don't know if I want to go down that road. I don't think it's something that I have to do. I'm a one-on-one artist. For me, I like to do illustrations cuando me nacen. And for me, it's really about empowering other women. Really, I guess I am in Web3 to kind of empower other women and just be their support system, and to build a community and to build strength and to inform people. So if you're on Twitter, I'm Hola Lucia Diaz. So please go over to Twitter and follow me, send me a DM. And if you have any questions about anything Web3 related, I could definitely send you over to the people that have I've trusted in the space. And don't join every single Discord, all of that stuff. Just do what you can. Don't have FOMO. Please don't overextend yourself. Don't invest in everything. Do your research, and do your research. That's all I have to say.
And I was going to mention that too about the Twitter, because Sandra is very active on Twitter in regards to NFTs. So if you guys do have any interest there, you're in the Latin community, you want to be connected to the right people, you can follow Sandra. She's always posting about those things. And so I wanted to just mention that because I know there's a whole lot of buzz around NFTs right now. And 100% what you're saying, there's like FOMO and people are seeing the investments but there has to be a sort of a strategy behind that. And I wanted to mention that just in case, there were people that are in the audience that, have that interest. So last thing I wanted to mention here was around the organization that you are doing a lot of things in a lot of places, girl. And so I wanted to talk about the nonprofit that you work with and your work there. I know it's something that's near and dear to your heart because we have talked about it in the past. So just share a little bit about that, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So Casa Hogar Nazaret is a orphanage in Colombia in Medellin. And before I worked at my big tech company and moved away from Miami, I spent 2 months teaching art at an orphanage and basically just spending my time being there and being surrounded by these children that all they want was love and appreciation. We brought like 16 duffel bags full of medicine, clothes, everything, food, de todo. And I realized that in our communities, like especially in Latin America, there's a lot of people in need. And if I could like spare, a couple, something, then I'm going to do it. Or if I could leverage my connections and basically kind of bring in more funding to this orphanage, I will. So my goal is, with the launch of my new website, I'm going to focus on like collecting funds specifically for that orphanage. So a percentage of each sale will go into, a specific account. And I'm hoping that even with NFTs, like I can even send ETH over and get other people within the community involved, because my grandfather was an orphan, my godfather was an orphan, and they are such incredible men that, not only were leaders in their families, when, losing both parents and stepping up into the role of taking care of your sisters and your brothers and even your children, that to me is like admirable. And so these kids just really want an opportunity for somebody to hear them out and be there for them. And if you have something locally in your community that you can volunteer, you don't have to necessarily go back to Puerto Rico or Colombia to, help out. There are like soup kitchens, there are people in need, there are women's shelters that need your help. And I just want to implore, if anybody listening to this, if you could just do one good deed this week in honor of this podcast, in honor of just you listening, you're going to make the world a better place. And it sometimes feels so daunting because all the stuff that's happening right now, not just with the markets, but also like the wars and just everything in general, and just the war on women in this country as well. Like there's so many things that are happening, and we have to kind of step back and realize our blessings and be grateful for what we have, because we could share that. I remember my grandfather in the farm, there was a widow that lost her husband, and it literally, like, it was just her raising her 5 children, and my grandfather brought over like food to her, like mercadito, and that like really changed my life, because I realized, if we're not okay as a community, then we're not okay individually. So community over the individual always. So if there's a way for you to help, do it. So I'm really excited that I am going to be able to hopefully go in January with my parents, and we're going to probably buy, we always like to buy like a bunch of stuff to take to them. So I'm super excited, and I can't wait to like share videos, and hopefully I could even do a retreat where people can come to Colombia, come to Medellin. I could take them to San Carlos, where I love to like hang out in my waterfalls, and also take people to serve this orphanage, because we need it. We need as much help as possible. And at the end of the day, if you can help somebody, again, in your community or back home where you're from, that's even within your own family. Like if there's something you can do, even just to listen, like to these kids, like these kids, all they wanted was somebody to pay attention to them. And it took everything in me not to adopt every single one of them, because I'm somebody that I just care for their future and understand that I was so lucky to have been born here in the States. Like I won like the birth lottery, because if it wasn't for that, like I don't think I would be able to pursue my art career as furiously as I do here in Colombia because of just the norms of how things are. And yeah, things are changing for sure, but it takes a lot more for us to kind of like really do what we love to do in our home countries because of the expectations of what women should be doing, being at home, raising kids, not in the kitchen. And so it's not about that. Like, and if you're dealing with that bullshit, just know that your husband or your partner can, help you with the dishes. Your partner can fold clothes. Like, it's okay to ask for help, and just know that there are other women out there that are willing to help as well. So I hope that answers the question. But
it does. And thank you for sharing that about the community. I mean, there's just so many wonderful things you're doing. And I'm so happy we had the time today to talk about, cover kind of a little bit of everything. Obviously, there's so much more we can talk about, and we definitely will in the future.
Yeah.
But I wanted to thank you so much for coming on, Sandra. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. And tell us where we can find you. I mean, we kind of touched on it, but like, let us know all the places we can get in contact with you or find your stuff to purchase even.
Yeah, so I'm going to be opening up my Etsy store in pretty much in the next couple hours again.
Oh my God.
And so I have my graduation collection back up. And then when my website launches, I highly recommend y'all sign up for my email list because I'm going to be sending out 22 wallpapers for free for your phone. So you can deck out your phone. They're not going to be all sent at once. They're going to be sent in different emails, but I highly, highly recommend you sign up for that list because I'm going to have special giveaways. I'm going to have special things that not everybody will have access to. So I'm excited to kind of, get back into making sure that I represent every Latina with my artwork and celebrate them. And if you ever have any ideas, DM me. Like if you have a specific holiday that you think I should work on, let me know. Like I am somebody that's really open to collaboration as well. So please, 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 like do whatever you need to do to kind of get yourself to the next level, and know that if you're a Latina artist, send me a DM, like know that you're not alone, and we can do this in community over the individual.
Yay, I love that so much. Thank you so much again, Sandra. Guys, go check out her work. Her illustrations are fire. Seriously, like she does amazing work. She has a very, obviously beautiful and humble spirit. So she's not going to say that. I'm going to say that. And so please do check out her stuff. Sandra, we love you. Thank you for being here. And everybody else, thank you for tuning in today. And until next time, stay fuerte. If you like this episode and want to support the podcast, please subscribe, share it with your people, post about it on social media, and/or leave a rating and review. To get the latest on Fuerte and Fearless, including new drops and upcoming episodes, follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Fuerte and Fearless and on Twitter at Fuerte Fearless. We thank you for listening. Until next time, stay fuerte.